I am joined in this work by my law firm, Cohen Milstein, Sellers & Toll, that helped me put together ideas about the litigation parts of this to end systemic discrimination, but also by the National Women's Law Center, on whose board that I sit, to help me understand how we can try to develop policies that will move the government and allow the government to be partners for women's equity. So, in addition to hearing about sexual assault and harassment, and I hear from a lot of women, and that really is a privilege. I hear also about other experiences that they have. Being passed over for plum assignments in workplace, not getting hired from a position in favor of maybe a less qualified man. I hear about pay gaps. And of course, like you, I hear and read about glass ceilings. I'm hoping this is sounding familiar to some of you, because if it doesn't sound familiar, I can just stop right now. But I'm sure it is sounding familiar in terms of your workplace experiences, if not your own personal workplace experiences, the experiences that women you know have had. So let me just start. Of course I hear a lot about harassment. These issues are happening on every workplace. It's not just that I'm targeting one or the other. They're happening on college campuses. And remember, the academy is supposed to be the liberal academy. And so it's ironic in many ways that this is still occurring on well-meaning places and places where it should not be the case. But in fact, that's what we have. Cosmopolitan magazine says that 1 in 3 women between the ages of 18 and 34 will have an experience of harassment. And now we have to add to that online harassment, something that I didn't have to experience when I was starting work. But it also happens to older women. And it happens that for many of them, the solutions lie with their employers, with their schools, and there are some good responses. There are mechanisms in many workplaces, investigations that are thorough and weigh each side's motives and their truthfulness, and they come up with the right conclusions many times. But even sometimes when they do come with the right conclusions, what happens then is that harassers are given a slap on the wrist, right? They're sort of coddled. And in some situations they're saying, well, write a letter of apology to your employee that you harassed. Or in the case of Roger Ailes, they may be even giving him a $40 million bonus. This is never appropriate. Harassers have to be held accountable. The EEOC convened a group of attorneys, business people, researchers, and advocates to study harassment in the workplace. And it was all forms of harassment. Now, I won't give you all of their conclusions, but one of the things that they made clear was that harassment causes psychological, physical, emotional, economic harms that can ruin employees' lives. And this is the primary reason that we want to end it in the workplace. But as well, there are direct business costs associated with harassment. Time, energy, and resources are diverted from work and go to legal representation, settlements, and litigation in court. And that hurts all employees. So ending harassment is everybody's business. And harassers must be either fired or demoted when they have engaged in severe or pervasive sexual or other forms of harassment in the workplace. This is the only solution that will put an end to the problem. Now, this report, this task force report, is available to you online. It's available online. Not only points out the problem, but it points out the importance of preventing harassment and how it can be done. And so I would recommend to you that if you or your managers have not looked at this report, this task force report, that you see to it that they done. Go to them. demand that they make the changes that the EEOC task force recommends. The EEOC, now that's one thing that you can do. Go online, find the task force report, EEOC task force report, Google it, it's there, it's in plain language, it gives specific recommendations. Now, the EEOC deals with workplace discrimination, but I want to put forth a different starting point for ending discrimination against women and actually assuring women's pathways to equality. And in particular, I argue, just as Annie alluded to, that these issues don't start in the workplace. They actually start in elementary school. And that's where we have to begin to address them. Harassment and bullying occurs at the elementary level. You've seen some incidents of it. If you have children, you probably know of it. And often boys who don't fit a gender stereotype are the direct victims as well. So it seems to me, if we don't start to curb the problem in elementary school, that we aren't going to have any chance of stopping grown-ups from behaving badly. If in fact they have been rewarded or allowed to pass with this behavior for years, they're not all going to just grow out of it. So we need to start looking at what is happening in our schools.